But explain to me the process and of what's going on with electronic bingo.
Well, Ricky, if I had made the law would be a lot different. I'm opposed to gambling. I voted against the lottery. I don't think it's good public policy. But I didn't make the law. In fact, I wasn't even in government when most of these laws were written and made. I have tried to respect them, and I've tried to uphold them. Let me give you a quick overview of the gambling laws in Alabama that I think brings all of this into focus. If you want to understand the gambling laws in Alabama, you turn first to Section 65 of the Constitution. It simply says lotteries are prohibited. A lottery is a game of chance that you have to pay to play for a chance to win a prize. If you've got all three of those things, you have a lottery. Bingo is a lottery. You got to pay. It's a game of chance, and you want to win a prize. It's a lottery, and it's illegal. And if Section 65 was the only provision of the Constitution, this would be easy. We'd go shut down every bingo hall in Alabama. We'd stop every church game. We'd shut down every VFW hall that's running a bingo game. We'd shut them all down, and we'd go home and be done with it. But as Paul Harvey used to say, there's a rest of the story. And the rest of the story is that Alabama has another section of its Constitution. It's Amendment 555. And that section allows us to amend the Constitution as it relates to one city or one county if a couple of things happen. If the measure being introduced is local in nature, if nobody in either house of the legislature votes against it, if the local constitutional amendment committee agrees that it's local in nature, if all of those things happen, it can go on a local ballot and it can be voted on in one city or one county, and if it passes, the Constitution is then amended. Section 65 is then suspended in that city or that county. That's happened 18 times. I've heard people in Alabama ask, well, why aren't we enforcing the laws uniform? Well, we're not enforcing the laws uniformly because the laws aren't uniform. We got 18 different laws, and hardly any of those are even similar, much less alike. So if we're going to enforce the law, we've got to read the law in the jurisdiction where we are. Now, I've heard people say, well, it looks like a slot machine, so it must be a slot machine. Ricky, antifreeze looks like Gatorade, but I'm not going to drink it. And if you talk to any law enforcement or prosecutor in our state, they would tell you that if they arrived at a house and they found a body on the floor with a bullet wound in it, it might look like a murder. But you don't go charge somebody with murder until you conduct the forensics and you understand, can I rule out suicide? Can I rule out accidental homicide? Why is it a murder? Well, bingo's no different. I believe you can have electronic versions of bingo just like I believe you can have electronic versions of solitaire or checkers or chess or anything else. And as long as the game faithfully replicates bingo, I believe there's some places in Alabama that electronic bingo can be legal. Now, we issued some findings that lots of people have mischaracterized and taken out of context, and they've said that I've cleared machines in places that I haven't cleared machines. In fact, I've never looked at a machine and said this machine is legal and that one's illegal. I've never done that. I have said if it's going to be a bingo machine, it's got to have a 5x5 grid, B-I-N-G-O. You got to have numbers from B1 to 075. You can't have 100 chances because it changes the whole game. You can't play against the house. You don't play bingo against the house. You got to play till somebody wins. Those are the sorts of things that are common sense. You know how we came up with these rules? It wasn't especially sophisticated. I went to Walmart and I bought a children's bingo game. And then I sat down and I wrote a set of rules in a set of findings that I made that mirrored what I found in the rules of bingo. There's nothing nefarious about what we did. We simply said, let's apply some common sense. If you want to know if it's bingo, let's look at it. Does it play bingo? If it does, then it may be legal. You know, there are a lot of people that have put a lot of pressure on me, and they've said, you know, we're against gambling, and we need to go get a court to just come in and invalidate all of this. I have not agreed with them. I still don't agree with them. I believe the place you change public policy is in the legislature, and I've tried to do that. Every year I've been Attorney General, we've introduced 2 pieces of legislation. The first year the governor endorsed them with me. The first piece of legislation says that if we come in and raid an illegal gambling hall, we can take from you 3 times what we can prove you've made at the bingo hall, and we're going to take that money and we're going to give it half of it to the investigating agency and half of it to the prosecuting agency. If we're serious about cracking down on illegal bingo or illegal gambling, then let's provide the resources for vice units to be effective in doing that. Let's just don't talk about it. Let's do something about it. The second bill, I guess, is the most controversial, although I would have thought it'd be the least controversial. It simply says that we're going to let the people of Alabama have the final word, an up or down, yes or no vote on whether they want electronic gambling electronic bingo within the borders of their state. I trust the people. I think the people of Alabama ought to be deciding this, not the politicians. When we've had other big issues like Amendment 1, we trusted the people to make the decision. I still trust them. I believe this is the people's state, the people's government, and the people's laws, and they ought to be the final decision maker. I know there's a lot of my friends that have gone to court or want to go to court, and I haven't joined them for one reason. I don't believe the courts. I don't believe in activist judges. I don't believe the courts are the place to go and settle a public policy dispute. I've spent my whole career saying it, and a lot of other conservatives have. If you look back over the last 60 years, you find that when liberal special interests came and they said, we want to get Bible readings out of schools. As conservatives, we said, well, then go to the legislature and change the law. Well, they tried and they failed. So then they went and they found an activist judge, probably a federal judge usually, and that judge said, you're right, we're going to take Bible readings out of public schools. Next to come was prayer. We said the same thing. Well, go to the legislature and change it. They tried, they failed, they went and found a judge who would do it for them. And so it goes, whether you're talking about the Pledge of Allegiance in school, or In God We Trust on Our Money, or the expansion of abortion rights, or the gay marriage debate that we're having. The right forum for those debates is the legislatures. And when we can't get our way there, it's not appropriate to turn to activist judges. All the conservatives have been up in arms as we've appointed a new Supreme Court justice. We don't need a judicial activist. We need somebody who will exercise restraint, who will respect the province of the legislature, who will do what the courts are supposed to do. Now we find ourselves as conservatives in a position we're not very used to. A position where we want to change the law and we can't get the legislature to do it for us. So some of us have turned to the courts and asked them to do what the legislature won't do. I can't be comfortable doing that. I don't believe that if we do that, it makes us as bad as the liberals who have been doing it for generations. I think it makes us worse because we know better. We've been warning about it and talking about it for generations. And for us to now compromise because there's suddenly an issue that we want to see changed so badly and we can't get a legislature to do it is just wrong. And I'm not going to be a party to it. I will continue to work in the legislature. I will continue to fight to give the people of this state the right to vote because I believe that is the right way to change public policy. When I was growing up, my daddy used to tell me, son, you don't ever do right by doing wrong. I think what that means is the ends do not always justify any means. I think what that means is there's a right way and a wrong way to do things. And we have to always be principled enough to do it the right way. And the right way is to change laws we don't like, not ask a judge to do it.